I was incredibly apprehensive about the show. From the writing credit changes, to people leaving, to the recent news that they just didn't care about playing the games. That being said, I wanted to give it a chance, because I thought their decision to not be canon was actually one of the best things a show could do. People were opposed to the idea, but I think it allows them to make tweaks where the canon story is lacking, in order to craft something special. But oh boy were people mad. We'll get into that bit later. This might be the fastest turnaround video I've done, but I think it's important to look at this adaptation to quell people's fears and help the try-hard crybabies come to terms with the story they hold most dear, and how some of their criticisms point to more personal issues rather than ones with the show. So, how was the first episode? I enjoyed it. Way more than I thought I would. It hasn't blown me away by any means, but I'm excited to see where it goes. This video will spoil everything in the pilot, so either go watch the episode, or buckle your seatbelts, Fano.
Hey, yeah? You ever wonder why we're here? It's one of life's great mysteries, isn't it?
I'm gonna start off with my first gripe. I think the show moves too quickly. For someone who was a big fan of world building, I kind of wished the show was slower, and allowed us to spend time with the insurrectionists before they all got murdered. Although it does keep the pacing of the episode very fast and engaging, and the decision to make the Covenant just at the beginning makes sense by the end of the episode. Now that we've moved on from that, I think the opening does a great job of establishing multiple things. The reputation of the Spartans, the brutality of the Covenant, and the shades of grey with the human versus Covenant conflicts. I can't say yet whether I think the writing is particularly stellar though. The first point was quite exciting because it became apparent very soon after the intro that the show was going to break down the true darkness behind the Spartans, which is one of my favourite things about the lore that the games just never explore. Yo, spittin' bars, damn. Something I wanted from a show or film adaptation of Halo was to really dive into how fucked up the Spartan program is, how broken the super soldiers are, and the intricacies of this human insurrection. So far, it seems like the show is definitely heading in the direction of exploring that. It was nice to spend a bit of time with the more forgotten part of Halo's lore, and I'm excited to see where they take that. Now, the Covenant themselves. There's not actually a lot to talk about them here, but I'm glad, as they look fine. I have some irks with the elite armor design, but overall I think both they and the Prophets look pretty solid for a TV show, although there is definitely a bit of work to be done, so I'm glad the humans are taking the forefront. What I will say about them is I think the show handles their brutality really well, and while the CG is somewhat satisfactory, I think the action and violence more than makes up for it. For now, anyway. Having the girls' entire settlement be wiped out was a pleasant surprise. That seems weird to say. Now, I personally always envisioned the Covenant taking a back seat in a show so we could avoid the CG issues, but, we'll see where this goes.
I will have this armrest. And this is how.
First, I'll deploy a small talk offensive.
Hey, what are you listening to? Music? Huh? Is it music?
If anyone ever makes the argument to you that this show is blackwashing, I think you should remove them from your life. First, it's not a valid criticism because blackwashing doesn't really exist, and is just telling of the insecurities of those making the argument. Second, the argument fails to grasp what portrayals are supposed to do, and on top of that, means they don't even understand the original character. Both Key's characters never revolved around the fact that they were white. In fact, the Halo universe doesn't touch on racial nuances at all, so changing the skin colour of a character doesn't affect the story in any way. Alright, moving on to the actual story. I'm pleased that the moment we meet Horsey, and goddamn Parangoski was a pleasant surprise, The show establishes that there's some shady shit going on, and reinforces my thoughts that the show is really going to focus on that. The plot revolving around the decision to kill one survivor added an unexpected amount of tension, and thought it provided a great entry point for how not black and white any of this is. Jacob Keyes so far is a bit of a lapdog, so not much to say here, although I am interested in the fact that they reveal Halsey as Miranda's mother right from the get-go. Excited to see if they do anything with this. Miranda's pretty solid, and it seems like she's going to be a more moral centre to this side of the story, which I appreciate, now that they've separated John from the rest of the UNSC. Personally, I wouldn't have made the Spartans the protagonists of the show at all. However, I think the route they're going with them is acceptable. Kind of annoyed that Blue Team isn't the supporting crew, but for now the others don't have much character, so I'm either way. I am ecstatic that the show is breaking down how fucked up the program is, and I think it's why I'm most content with their decision to have the Chief be significantly more characterized. I'm not as bothered as I thought I would be seeing his face, even though I would have preferred it to be later down the line, but it definitely confirmed the direction the show was taking. Good old Nikki Sabotka is doing a pretty good job as the Chief though.
Yeah! Fuck you! Greedhead motherfucker! Fuck you for tearing down the Port of Baltimore and selling it to some yuppie assholes from Washington!
It was interesting to see the Forerunner tech having the effect it had on Chief, but one thing I now want to see out of this is further exploration into the whole Reclaimer idea from the games, and how maybe it could do a better job of actually addressing it than the games did. No AI takeover though, please. I think this will add a nice cohesiveness to the Forerunner's introduction, and I'm curious as to how actual Halo is going to play a part in this season. The biggest change I wasn't expecting was the end, and putting Master Chief away from the UNSC is an interesting choice to do this early. I do think this will allow the show to give him a lot more depth, as he begins to question his past and his morals. But I have thoughts on where they can take his character after this season if that's what they're doing. Having him on the run is a very late story thing, but there's a lot going on here, so honestly we're just going to have to wait and see.
Hello. Hey guys, what are going on in this level?
We need your help, Chief. We can't escape. We're under too much fire.
Don't worry guys, it's Kay.
Can people stop making stupid complaints? So far, I think the casting's all pretty solid. The CG needs a bit of work, but it's nothing I'm going to tear my hair out about. I'm very happy they're going non-canon, and so far I think it's working out for the best. The dialogue could probably use some improvement, as could the overall writing, but I think a lot of the decisions here are working out pretty well. Everyone was right to have fears for this show, and I can't say I like the mindset of the writers a lot, but I can quite confidently say the show is taking all of the good stuff and doing something interesting and different with it. My big concern going forward is I hope they're not biting off more than they can chew. This is just the first episode, but I think it's worth talking about now, rather than letting the crazed fanboys run rampant. So, what did you think of the show?